at 1 o'clock. Okay. Hi, everyone. My name is Jennifer Hill. I'm Director of Member Engagement at ADHA. So I just wanted to take a quick second to introduce our speaker for today. For those of you who have been on these webinars in the past, you will know Peggy already pretty well, but for those of you who haven't, Peggy Hoffman is the President and Executive Director of Mariner Management, and she's been providing training and consultation on leadership development, component relations, strategic planning to more than a dozen national associations and many local associations over the past 30 years. So we're very lucky to be working with Peggy and have a great relationship with her. And we're really happy that she's been providing these webinars for all of you, our state and local leaders. So I will pass it over to Peggy to get started for today.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I am super excited to be back here with you guys and loving to see you guys coming in from all over the space, including lovely Hawaii, right? So I love that. Welcome to our conversation today, Nailing the Ask. So I always like to say that nailing the ask is really about asking the best possible question. Maybe we could even say the right question. So I could ask you, how are you today? But I'd rather ask you something that would be a little bit different. I love this article I read probably about 6 months ago about what to replace how are you with to make more vibrant, inviting, engaging conversations. I'm going to give you a couple more answers that I found in that article. But what I'd like you to do is in the chat, go ahead and answer this question. What new idea is giving you energy lately? So I know we got a lot of things on our minds and our shoulders are heavy, way too heavy with some of the things that are happening. But each and every day, it's often that we stumble across something that just gives us that little spark. So go ahead, type in what new idea or something that is giving you energy today. Oh, Beth, thank you. I love you kicking off right away. It was such a wonderful statement about ADHA supporting the profession. And it is very exciting, isn't it? Laura, springtime gardening, virtual hangouts from Shauna, the future. Oh, Mary, tell us more about the future from your viewpoint. Because, guys, this is the kind of conversation you can have that can help you connect with people in new and exciting ways. Samantha, new diet. I had to not long ago go both. This is too much information, but gluten and dairy-free. I am learning all kinds of new foods. Totally get that. Well, what I want us to do today is to see if we can come up with another idea that can give us some serious energy as we move forward. Lori's waiting for her baby. I love that. And I'm going to start as I usually do because I want to get you guys talking to us. How did you first join? Now, as I bring this poll up, I want you to pay attention to the question. It's how did you first join, all right? And I've given you a couple of options here. Maybe it was discounted event. Maybe it was you attended a meeting and just got hooked. Maybe it was a friend recommendation, a peer recommendation. Maybe your employer said, hey, get over there and check these folks out. Maybe you simply transitioned after graduation. So go ahead. Tell us, how did you first join? I know sometimes this might be difficult. Some of you may have been members for quite a while. Some of you are more recent members. So go back into those archives and see if you can remember when you first joined. And then, depending upon what you've said, I want to hear a little bit more about the first to join in the chat. So I'm going to give just another second or two because I'm checking to see how many people have had a chance to figure out how to click in and vote. So this was you got to pick just one of these options. And I'm going to let us go for 3, 2, 1. All right. Let me share what we've had. So many of you on the call transitioned immediately after graduation. So that first join was connected then to the people that you knew and the things that happened, and you just kind of moved along. But I love the fact that the rest of you guys, it was all a person, an individual, a friend, a peer, or an employer. as we find when we do research on why people join, the where that join happens is very often related to an individual. And the reason why it's related to an individual is because we are all much more motivated to follow someone's advice and recommendation than we are an ad that pops up. So let me ask you another question, because obviously the when is going to the yes is going to happen because there's a secondary trigger, right? There's going to be something else that's going to prompt you to actually pull out that wallet and join the organization. So let me ask this next question. What do you believe is the top reason that dental hygienists join today? Now, it could be networking. Maybe it's career services. Maybe it's access to information. Education, perhaps? Support advocacy? Maybe it's the learning opportunities. Maybe it's just to give back. Now, I will tell you that in national membership surveys, all of these items are generally the offerings that are touted. But I want to get your sense of why you believe dental hygienists join today. Yes, okay, so great. Yes, if you don't have access to the polling, please bring it in. So networking and advocacy comes in from Janine. Thank you, Janine. Well, Lori, that's a really important point. Oftentimes, particularly for those of us that are later stage career, it actually was what you did when you joined the profession or the career. So just a real quick note, you have an opportunity on the chat to do the down arrow to pick attendees, panelists, all panelists and attendees. So go ahead, please, and make sure that you're clicking all panelists and attendees. Let me end the polling and share what you guys said. So interestingly enough, 45% of you said networking. 24% said access to information, 11% education, 18% support advocacy, and some folks said, one person said to give back. So all of those are actually, I would say, very relevant, right? Oh, Marion, I love that. I took the education because that's why I think most do for the lower price for the free CEs, and someone else said for the discount CEs. All right. Well, let me share with you what the survey says. The top 3 reasons why dental hygienists are joining the organization today, this top one by 83% is access to information. The second is continuing education. And the third is networking. So 83% of the folks said it was information that they were looking for. Now, yes, it is true that you can get that in education and in networking, but the trigger, the reason why they want to be involved is that access to information. Continuing education, there's a lot of competition out there, so they do see ADHA and each of your constituent groups is important to that, and certainly networking is important. But if you want to overcome obstacles, if you want to help someone see the value, for many brand new people, it could be that it's simply access to information. And how are you demonstrating that? How are you pointing that out? How are you helping people see that information? So, Carmen, that's a great question. And since we've got some ADHA staff on the thing, I'm going to have them go ahead and type in. But I'd like the rest of you to answer her question, too, which is when they say access to information, what type of information are we referring to? Now, even though these are the top 3, there's going to be some people for whom 2 or 3 are far more important, or someone maybe later stage in their career that wants to give back for whom that's going to be the most important. So part of the process of nailing the ask is clarifying for each and every one of the individuals that you're talking with which of these things are triggers. What I'm going to suggest is that as we go through this conversation, as we think about this, I want us to move from this notion that we have to sell membership to we have to build the community. Now, very few of us are what I would call like super salesmen, right? I mean, I'm not all that interested in selling membership for my professional society, but I am really interested in building community. And when I take the salesperson hat off and think about the building community, all of a sudden, I don't know, I'm I'm much more open to it, and I'm way, way, way more successful. And to help us do this, I want us to look at three things. I want us to look at open the door, start the conversation, and overcome the obstacles. So let's begin at the beginning of that with open the door. And I'd like to ask a question. I'm going to ask, excuse me, I got a little frog in my throat here. How would you rate your prospect welcoming and onboarding? So when I talk about opening the door, I'm really talking about how you're welcoming somebody into the organization and how you are then bringing them along to better understand. What I'm really talking about is this notion that if we're going to move from the ask to the building the community, we actually have to have a welcome mat at the door, right? We have to actually demonstrate the committee. We have to help them get in and see the community. So are you nailing it? I want you to share in the chat if you are. Got a couple good things going. I've been on your websites. I've been in your organizations, and many of you have a couple of good things going on, if not more. Share that in the chat. Not sure what you mean by prospect welcoming and onboarding. Hey, that's okay, because we're going to talk more about it and as we move on in this call. So go ahead, keep sharing. Information on social media, Amber. Yes. Smile. Yes, Tammy, that is awesome. Introduce new members on our Facebook page. Samantha, that's a winner for sure, Sharing personal welcome email and goodies. I like that. So Shauna, tell us more about those goodies. Freebies from the state to come in with being positive. Yes. So you guys get this. All right, I'm going to pull this off and show you what we've got. Many of you, I love this. I've got a couple good things going because I want to keep those things coming on. A couple of you are saying, well, tell me a little bit more about this. Let's get to that. And then at least two of you are saying nailing it. So listen, those of you that are nailing it, keep the information coming. Listen, I don't have all the answers. What I have are friends with answers, people like you on this call today. So go ahead and keep it going. A koozie, an ADHA sticker. I love it. Keep them coming now, guys. And we will talk about how do you open the door. So I want to talk about two different ways to open the door. The first is having engaging activities. Now, we have talked about this a number of times when we've been together. Here are the links, and don't worry, we'll put the links in the chat for you as well. Here are the links of 4 different webinars that we've done that are now archived that you can go back and figure out a little bit more about engaging events. I love each and every one of these because we've had lots of good conversation and we built on top of each other with your ideas. So creating experiences that draw is all about going beyond the events. Staying close to members was all about our COVID conversation. The conversation has started is all about using content, getting to that information question, right? And then 5 ideas to make your chapter shine came from all of you. So the BAM button, become a member, is I think idea. And Tammy, we need you to take pictures of that and share for us. The second thing we can do is to activate the join us, like with the BAM button, right? And I want to talk a little bit about how we can do this. The first thing I want to mention is we can use our website and have a call to action. So this is I would call this is basically setting the stage, right? Now, a number of you had some pretty interesting areas, but I want to highlight a couple of them, and I want to start by highlighting Connecticut. And why do I want to highlight Connecticut? Because you guys have got to go to their homepage. I love this. It says, what membership gets you more? And then they have a rotating banner. I grabbed 3 of the pictures off. I think they have about 8 different pictures, and it rotates through, and you see all of these really cool images of members being engaged. So you see, for example, the back to school thing, a small image that's down there. You see at the event. You see another set of volunteers. Truly, truly very engaging and inviting us to come on board, right? You can tap events, both in-person and virtual events. Now, I know that a lot of you do like the, ADHA Ohio or ADHA Connecticut or whatever table at your events. And that's great. What I want you to get in the time, what I want you to put in the chat is, what are you doing to make that stand out or make that special? So how are you tapping that in-person event with something a little extra that makes a difference? So what am I talking about? I'm talking about, for example, the picture you see here is one of my favorite PMI chapters. They have this wonderful pop-up banner that says welcome. They usually put that at the door or in front of the registration that says welcome and brings you right in again. They take this banner with them to other secondary locations that they go so that people always know the chapter has welcomed. Now, what you can't see very well, but the young lady all the way over on the far side, they made chapter shirts, and she's got the chapter shirt on. She's part of the welcome team. She's part of the team that at every particular event, their job is simply to welcome folks in, ask them how they're doing, get them connected with somebody. They don't want anybody, and their rule of thumb is they don't want anybody coming to an event and sitting by themselves unless they choose to, because obviously there are some people that do. They really want to make sure that people connect with an individual or a person. So one of the interesting things about the Ambassadors of the Welcome Team is in this day and age, we don't have in-person events right now, right? We'll get back to those. But the welcome team can also pick up the phone. The welcome team can still have that personal connection. The welcome team could still do a meetup on Zoom or virtual or FaceTime, right? The welcome team does not have to only be activated in person. Please, get as creative as you can around this notion of making sure people connect with the organization. Another element that you can do, which connects to some of these events, is getting to know us sessions. Now, I noticed when I was going through some materials that a couple of chapters has said they've done this before. So go ahead, guys. You know what? In that chat, tell us a little bit more about it. So what a getting to know us session is that at the beginning of an event, that maybe you have the 30 minutes, and you get people into a room, and in this particular room, it's just about, let us introduce you. Let us tell you a little bit more about the organization, who we are. The most effective chapter getting to know us session that I ever saw was a group that does this. They do it for the 45 minutes before a particular event. They do this, I believe they said, twice a year, right? In any case, you come in, you stand at a table, and at every table is a board member or a board representative, right? Only one per table, and then you have 2 or 3 people sitting with them. And on the table is a sheet of paper, and the sheet of paper says, what I need to know or what I need to learn. You put you answer whichever the questions that you want, and then you put something specific. And then the board member leads a conversation about how the chapter can specifically help the individual do that. And what they're doing is helping the new individual, this is for prospects or members, helping this new individual to this community get to meet somebody who's a raving fan, somebody who's a guide, somebody who can be a good, warm welcome, right? But also connect their particular issue or interest to what the chapter is doing. Just amazingly invaluable. In fact, they got to be pretty popular events. The last element of here, which I absolutely love, is called the live tour of the membership. Now, I will tell you that that this works particularly well in a virtual environment. Essentially, and I learned this from another chapter about 3 years ago. What they do with a new member or a prospect, and they love doing this with prospects, is they say, can I put you on a Zoom call, and can I give you a tour of the membership? And what they do is they use their own login. They show what's behind the membership wall. It's guarded. You're careful. But you simply say, look, this is what the organization has to offer. These are the kinds of things that we have to offer. If you have a closed Facebook group, they can go into the Facebook group and just show them around. it's like giving them a taste. So you're in the mall when we could, and you're going down, and there'll be like a cheese shop or a chocolate shop, and they'll have a tray, right? In the grocery store, they do this, right? Taste this, new spread. That's what you're doing. You're giving them a taste of the membership. You're not giving it away. You're just showing them from your perspective what you think is valuable. And away it goes. All right. The next way we have to look at this is start the conversation. So we talked about open the door. Now I want us to actually get started on that conversation. How involved is your board in your membership recruitment? Let me bring this poll up. So, how involved is your board? Now, you've got 4 answers here. You can only pick one. We appoint, direct, and monitor the membership committee, otherwise hands off. So you're really giving the membership committee the authority and the responsibility and the accountability, right? You've interacted regularly with membership, and then you follow their lead. So you're maybe almost an extension of the membership committee. You run the membership strategy. For a smaller organization, maybe you don't have a separate membership team. Maybe you are the person that are running the strategy. And then maybe not sure, it kind of, fluctuates. So like one year and then the other year. So comes and goes over time. So tell us a little bit about this. So how involved is your board in membership recruitment and retention? I see folks are coming in, and I'm seeing a lot of interact regularly with the membership committee and follow their lead, followed by not sure, it kind of fluctuates, understand that. Okay, I'm going to give you just a few more seconds here. Some great chat going on. Amy says they're going to try and host their first ever new member orientation via Zoom next Saturday morning. That is so awesome. Give Amy some ideas if any of you have ideas about that. All right, let me end the polling, share the results. All right, so most of you said interact regularly with the membership committee and follow their lead. I'm delighted to see that you're doing it, because I think the follow the lead is really important. But 6 of you really talk about you run the membership strategy. Pretty cool, pretty cool. I used to ask this question of whose job is membership? And I actually teach for association people, I teach a one-day class, and I say, okay, guys, whose job is membership? And I have a mixture of people, some with no membership in their title. People with membership in their title all raise their hand. Then we talk, and I go, okay, guys, really, whose job is membership? And I'm looking for everybody's hands to raise up, because at the end of the day, if you want to build the community, if you want to activate folks to say yes, if you want to get past the obstacles, we have to all start the conversation, not just 1 or 2 of us. So how do we start this conversation? What do we need to do to start this conversation? Well, I'm going to start this little portion off with the very important rule that it's not the product you sell, it's the problem you solve. You see, what makes selling membership so difficult for some of us is that we feel like we're selling this membership and we're asking people to give us money. When in reality, what we're doing is we're simply helping people by solving their problem, giving them a resource, giving them a connection, giving them something that produces a solution to a pain for them at that moment. So what do I mean by this? Okay, well, think about this. You don't buy shampoo, right? You buy shiny hair. You don't buy insurance. You buy peace of mind. You see, we're not selling, your retailer's not selling the shampoo, but it's selling the promise of the shampoo. Insurance is a big lift to buy, but the peace of mind is priceless. To the same degree, so many of us click off our membership list by saying, we advocate for you, but I'm not going to buy a voice on the Hill. I'm going to buy safety back at work. I love this as a perfect example right now as just how powerful advocacy is when it's not advocacy, but it's solution. So I know that ADHE and many of you have all been really working very hard on how do we assure the safety of both dental hygienists and their patients in this new environment. To tell you how powerful it is when the sale is not support advocacy, but let us solve this for you. You can drive membership. This advocacy effort that is currently going on has yielded 700 new members. ADHA has got this great offer, probably most of you know about this, under Advocate as the code number, where you save $50 off. But people are really super excited to be members of an organization that's solving a current crisis. So guys, it's not about selling advocacy. We can't start our membership list with we give you the voice. We have to start the membership list with we keep you safe. We help you be safe and your patients be safe. Right? I think that is so imperative for us to think about this. Now, of course, it does have a dilemma, and what we're talking about today will help. And the dilemma is you have 700 new people and counting, and we need to keep them. And the way we keep them is not by going back to resell them with our voice, right? It's about finding out what their challenge is and selling for the challenge. So we don't buy the voice on the Hill. You buy safety first. Let me give you another example. You don't buy education. No, you don't buy education. You buy what education delivers. So how do I identify signs and symptoms of cardiovascular diseases? Well, I learned how to save someone's life for the next oral examination, and you teach me. How do I manage pain in patients who are at risk for those who have been or those who have been affected by COVID-19? Well, I learned pain management. You see, your education offerings are not why I'm there. I'm there because when I take those education opportunities, those offerings, I'm going to have a skill set or a knowledge set or be able to do something with more effectiveness. It could be that I build a skill and it gets me my next job, right? But I'm not buying education. I'm buying what education gives me. And I don't buy networking, and yet we say that networking, all of us will say, oh, you need to join the organization because it's for networking. No. I join it to be connected to the people because you're convening my people together and you're making that accessible to me. So just like we talked last week, or I guess 2 weeks ago really, what Colorado was doing, some amazing virtual work. And then I love what Ohio has done with their webinar. I'm going to ask her to speak out in just a few moments here. I'd like to tell a little bit more. They had an amazing number of people on a video conference. And it wasn't just that they had the video conference and they made that connection for people to get together, right? But they also had this active dialogue after on Facebook because they connected people. I'm not going to join to buy networking, but I am going to buy those connections. So we really just need to get to the point of being able to say, what is it that you want to buy, and then how do I connect you with that from a solution perspective? So two typical ways to get at this is to say, what do you need from ADHA? Or what are you looking to professionally achieve in the next 6 to 12 months? So these are two really good, easy starting questions, right? But let's dive a little deeper into this one when we talk about what are you looking to professionally achieve in the next 6 to 12 months. Now, first of all, I want to make a comment here. You notice I said 6 to 12 months. In today's life, it could be the next 4 months, right? For those people that are going to be renewing, it's going to be the next 6 to 12 months, right? a lot of people say, oh, what do you want to achieve in your career? That's too far off. Things are changing. Look at how our lives have changed since February, right? So ask somebody, you want to get that immediate need that you can solve immediately. So here's the thing. When you're trying to find out what folks are willing to buy, you can't stop with one question. And so rather than taking the answer to that question as face value and launching into it, my suggestion is that you follow up with some really, open-ended, I want to know more questions, right? So why is that important, whatever that item is? Why is that important? What will change if you succeed? What do you need to get there? And that's a pretty powerful one. Like, I may really know where I want to go, but I don't have access to what I need to get there. And the answer could be something around an educational offering or the voice that you're doing or the networking that you're providing, right? So what I'm suggesting here is you find the challenge. What is it that they need? You come up with the offering, and you provide them with that as some very real connections to something that your constituent group all the way through ADHA is offering, and you translate that into the benefit. So if someone says, well, I'm probably looking to change my job, for you to say, oh, we have lots of networking, that's not going to do it. That's not going to do it. Well, we have a job portal, but we also have virtual get-togethers where you will get a chance to meet people, to connect with other people, and lots of times the job comes from the connections. So the benefit is, by being a member, is it will likely help you find your way to your next job. So see, this isn't selling. This is, what's the challenge? I think we got something that might be able to help you, and this is what's going to come from it. So I promised you that I was going to give you some additional questions to get those conversations going. So what I love about the article in Forbes of How Are You and the Change It is that there are so many better ways for us to ask that kind of a question that opens the door for a conversation but says that we care. I know you guys are tremendously caring people, right? And so how are you can kind of be like, oh, yeah, I'm fine, or, get the same answers. But look at some of these questions. I mean, what if you said, what is the best part about your day? What work is most exciting to you this week? I love this. What is one thing we could do right now to make this day, project, or event even better? I mean, I've used that question at a, the whole networking part that comes before an educational event when you're all meeting. I'll say, hey, what can we do to make this day better for you? I can't tell you how many times someone said, well, I really came to meet so-and-so, and I become the reason why they met that person. And all of a sudden, I'm the reason why they pay the dues, right? So I think the Ohio webinar is a great example. What's one thing we could do right now to make this even better? We're going to give you access to information, and we're going to connect you with that information, right? So play with these. So put in the chat, if you would, please. Which of these questions would you like to play with? Which of these questions might you try using a couple of times? So chat that in there. But if you've got another one to add to this list so we can build this list, to find a question that's meaningful to us and really works for other people, let's chat. Oh, I love this. I'm just happening to noticing that we did get a question, and it says networking during meetings instead of just chatting. Yes, and you know what's really interesting, Kathleen, about that comment that you made, which I think is really important, is network is different than just chat, right? Network is making connections with people and ideas. And so sometimes one of the best ways you can do both energizing events but also really amplifying this welcome is to do some kind of an icebreaker at the beginning, an icebreaker that helps people really get to know somebody differently or gets people to understand where someone's coming from. Great point to put up there. Thanks. energy or exciting related questions. Last question. Last question is good. Yeah. What brought you here today, Tara? Good. Okay. Yeah. Come on, guys. Keep coming in. I mean, part of what we have to do to make this whole thing work for us is we really have to find a question that resonates with us, and then we have to practice it. And you know what, by the way, I think any of these questions could be used for a family member, for a friend, on the sidelines of the soccer field, when you're with your friend, when you're with your kids' parents. Lots of different ways to do that, right? All right, let's come to the third spot, which is all about overcoming obstacles. Now, this is probably one of my favorite parts of this conversation. And the reason why I think it's one of my favorite is because, let's see, I think, to me, life is always a barrier, something in the way to get around, to prove that I'm strong or stronger than I look or cuter than I look or whatever. I'm always very much motivated by this notion of moving something out of the way. So I love this part of the conversation because many times we shrink away from this. But let me give you some what I would consider really good tips that I've learned over time on how to overcome those obstacles. All right. The first thing I want you to do when somebody is sort of hedging and they don't want to, and you know, maybe some of those 700 folks that have just come in, we now have to talk with them maybe differently. And by the way, a little side point here, if you do a warm welcome, you probably won't have to overcome the obstacles. But in some cases, no matter what you do, there will be some obstacles. The first thing to do is to clarify, really, when someone says it's about the money, you've got to figure out, is it payment or is it cost? And the reason why I say that is because I know that with my son, when he was going to join an organization, it was the big upfront cost, right? It was this notion of, it just seemed like a lot of money. It seemed like a big lift. It seemed like a big decision. And when the reality was he saw the value, it was the dollars, right, that he just was struggling with a little bit. And so when I said to him, I said, well, take a look at that. There is there's a quarterly payment option. All of a sudden, that kind of went away. So if it's the cost, we have to sort of deal with that. But if it's really about how do I pay, when do I pay, how can I pay, then we can deal with that pretty easily. I want to show you, this is Arizona's page. Whoa, 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 whoa. Who from Arizona is here? Go ahead, please raise your hand. Tell us in the chat. Totally love this. So when you go to their page, and it says, have a voice, become a member, and it gives you right then and there. Option 1, pay in full. Option 2, pay in quarterly installments. So you are countering this concern about this is a big lift for me. I also love, I saw one of the other chapter organizations that I was working with, they did a really cool thing because they gave the transition, and they said, and that is such and such and such, a month. All of a sudden people went, okay, that is great. I can totally do that, right? So break it down to a more manageable sum. Remember, many of us have Netflix or Spotify or many of those other kinds of subscription things, and we're just paying $14.99 or $25.99 or whatever each and every month, right? And I know that, yes, you can cancel those, and you're not going to cancel your ADHA. I understand that difference, but what I also want you to understand is that the reason why this works in fundraising so well is because people like to see the chunks. They pay for their mortgage or their rent monthly. They pay for their groceries biweekly or weekly. We're used to, I can spend $100 on the groceries. We're not used to when you multiply that out for the year, okay? The other thing, though, is I know that you have a 3-part membership. I understand that, and I understand that a new member may not understand that, right? So let's help them see the full picture so you not get mired of why do I have to pay. So these are 2 examples. Colorado's the pyramid. Is that not awesome? Look at that. Because right in the center is me, the ADHA member, right? I'm the member. I'm in the center. And look at this. I've got support all around me. All of a sudden, it's not like I'm buying one thing. I'm buying this beautiful puzzle. Or I love Wisconsin. You guys need to go and just steal away from Wisconsin's, right? They have an FAQs, which I love. But check this out. Do I need both? Da-da-da-da-da. Well, that's the best part. For one low price, you can member of all three organizations. Look at that. There's no apology there. There's no, it's like, no, the best part is you get us all. All right, maybe I'm a little over enthusiastic, but here's the deal, people. Approach all of this as a positive, as a yes, as a yes and, right? Yes, you got to join both, and that means you get all three of them, right? Stronger together is one of the messages in the latest campaign from ADHA for membership. Stronger together. Let's show them there. One member tells that she works at the temp one day for the purpose of covering her dose. Done in one day. Thank you, Mary. That's great. So, guys, get beyond some of those. Those are kind of these are logistical issues. Now, there are some really real issues that we have, and I think that we need to be able to address some of these other ones. So, let me give you some clarifying questions when you get that question of, well, it's too expensive, or I don't know, you do not have to answer. First of all, you do not have to answer on the first round. Okay, what you're going to do is you're going to give yourself sort of the rule of three. I can clarify. I can actually get away. Selling science shows I can get away with 3 follow-up questions before I have to respond, right? So here are some ones that come right out of the association membership playbook, if you will. And these are all questions that you can use. So take a look at them, and then in the chat, share the 1 or 2 that you think could make a big difference. It would be useful for you to be able to use this. So, too expensive compared to what? How are you coming to the conclusion it's too expensive? Are there boxes that are unchecked in terms of what membership gives you? Well, tell me, when you say expensive, what's too expensive? So if money were no object, would membership help you? It might seem expensive all at once if you think of it in terms of by quarter or a month it's about. Thanks for your honesty. How much you think of I got a typo in there. How much would you think of paying? What are the most valuable parts of the membership? I can understand you might not want to join today. What would need to change for you to say yes? So obviously, depending upon what people are saying, what their conversation is, you clearly might find one of these more appropriate than the other. So let me ask this question. What clarifying questions do you usually use? Let's build this list a little bit more. This is not a be-all, end-all list. What other questions could you put in there for clarifying questions? Now, remember that, yes, we're talking in the context of helping somebody see the value, absolutely, but we're also getting a chance to learn more about the individual. So at the end of the day, you may never get around to, so will you join? And that's okay. You know more about that individual, and then you can turn around and come back to that person another time because you now know what is in their mind. You have a better understanding of what motivates them. So someone said, what reservations do you have about becoming a member? Yeah, I like that, Kara. And maybe, I don't know, could we take that to pull it out just a little bit more and say, what concerns or what questions? Dawn says, differing opinions grow our association. Can you tell me more? Dawn, I love it. Everybody give her a round of applause. I love that. I love that because you know what? Now you're getting more input. So don't look at this as a sales process that you might get a no. Look at this as a building community process. Excellent, guys. Awesome. All right. So I want to give you kind of a process that you can follow. So I'm going to go through kind of real quickly here. And then I want to bring in, I'm just going to let let Shannon Sweeney know from Ohio. I really want you to come on in just a moment and share with us about that event and some of the impact with that, because that's really a community building that will help us take a look at how all of this stuff works. So I'm giving you a heads up, Shannon. So here's the step process. Ask the clarifying questions. Confirm what you heard. Don't launch into a response. Confirm what you heard. Tie it to the value. And I always put number 4 in, which isn't part of the process of the here and now, but it is check back. And I say check back because most times we're not closing the sale here. We're helping people see the value, right? And it's really important that even in doing this, that we check back. So, gave you some clarifying questions. Confirm what you heard is simply, and I bet you do this in your professional life all the time, when you're working with a patient and they say, well, I have sensitivity here, and you go, okay, you have sensitivity there. Can you tell me a little bit more about the sensitivity that you're feeling? Okay, can you point out where that sensitivity is? Okay, can you tell me whether or not that sensitivity is with hot or cold? These all sound a little bit familiar. Yes, I've been in the seat with someone asking me these questions. And then my dental hygienist will always come back around and she'll say, okay, so I understand you have sensitivity in the back tooth, but only when you drink cold water. Okay? That's what we're doing with this dental hygienist in front of us or on the other end of the phone, is just confirm what you heard. And then tie it to the value, and then make an appointment for a check back. So it's a pretty straightforward, simple process. Don't overthink it, guys. And not only don't overthink it, I want to also help you understand that this whole webinar is not about sales. This whole webinar is about getting to know your people in a deeper, more personal way that allows you to be the guide, the good neighbor in a neighborhood, and sort of give you a tour of that neighborhood, right? So one other statement. So I mentioned earlier, I think it's so exciting, 700 new members and counting. Part of what we have the opportunity to do right now, yes, these folks have already paid their money, right? You can reach out to these folks now and go through the same steps. You could reach out and you could say, so what does ADHA have to do for you in the next 6 to 12 months to make a difference? Or, so what's on your mind in terms of your professional career over the next 6 to 12 months? Well, tell me a little bit more about this. Well, ask those clarifying questions. So it sounds to me like you really love your job, but you'd really like to maybe get that promotion. Well, let me make a suggestion for a couple of things. Tie it to the value, and then check back in with them. So Laura's saying, I get a lot of messages the associations post information without being a member. Why join? I get a lot of messages that the associations post information without being a member. Why? Oh, I'm sorry. I understand, Laura. So, yes, what you're saying is that right now, particularly in this time of COVID, but to a certain degree, particularly through our advocacy efforts, whether you pay or not, you benefit, right? But to this time, yes, most associations are giving away more information than they might. It's really imperative that we do that right now. This is an entire society effort for us to be able to get through this time. So worry not necessarily so much about that. But even in our day-to-day, we are going to be in a situation where, quite frankly, we're going to put a lot of stuff out there on social media, for example, and there's going to be concern, well, why aren't we saving this for members? Well, I'm the kind of person that believes that if I can give and give and give, but my response when people ask questions is warmer when they join, I am creating the reason to join. In other words, you have access to see what we have, but you don't always have access to us. So when people said to me, well, I can get all this free, so why should I join? I would say, I always come back and I would say, well, why wouldn't you join? What's stopping you? Is it the information, the only thing you need right now? What else could you possibly need that I could solve? My goal is always to be able to start the conversation. Well, Laura, it is true. I think that some members will get upset about the free post to the public for that the association, that other associations pay for. So it becomes imperative for us to then do things like the live tour of membership. For members too sometimes, right? Show what is exclusive to membership. Show how membership makes a difference. Begin to be able to help people see the line, if you will, right? It's like we have to get information out there. We have to galvanize the dental hygienist community to protect for safety for the hygienists and safety for the patients. We have to make sure that that dental hygienists are as educated as effectively as possible. And then if you're a member, you get access over here. No, Laura, you are not being negative or difficult. Here's the deal, guys. If we don't have conversations like this and kind of change and challenge ourselves, we can't advocate for the profession, can we? No. So I would suggest that, like, I don't have all the answers. So some of you have got some answers that you have been using, right? So do me a favor right now, as I'm getting Shannon up and ready to go to tell us a little bit about their webinar. Do me a favor. How do you answer some of these questions? Go ahead and share in right now. Oops. And I am going to ask, I'm going to my participant list, and I'm going to ask, Shannon Sweeney, can you raise your hand, or can staff help me find her on the list and open up her mic?
It looks like she raised her hand, Peggy, so you should be able to.
Okay, excellent. There we go. Okay, there we go. I got you. All right, Shannon, it took me a minute. How are you doing? Can you chat and talk with us?
Can you hear me okay?
Yes, indeed. Oh, Shannon, I was so excited that you were willing to come on and share a little bit more about the webinar. What I totally loved, if I can sort of direct you a little bit, is so we're talking about here about how we demonstrate the value, how we connect, help dental hygienists connect to the organization, right? How do we build that community? You guys came out with such a timely event. You connected with people, and then you kept the dialogue going. Just tell us a little bit about the topic, about how you got the news out there, and how you made the connection for members.
Okay, we had a lot of people reaching out to us, email, Facebook Messenger, asking questions about when we go back. What is PPE going to look like? When are we going to be opening? Who makes the decisions? And so we had all these questions coming in, and we were talking to our lobbyist, Matt, who's also on the webinar with me. And he was like, why don't we do like a town hall webinar and they can ask their questions? And so we actually only opened it up to 500 people, and we sent the email out at like 10:30 at night, and by 2 a.m. it was full. And so the next day we're scrambling because, you know, it costs money, it's Zoom. And so we scrambled, and then we opened it up to 1,000 people, and that was full in an hour and a half. And so then we're like, I reached out to my executive council, and I was like, I need your budgets for the rest of the year. And they said, take it. And so we opened it up to 3,000 participants. And we actually ended up with almost 2,500 participating. But it gave everybody, not just members, it gave everybody an opportunity to put their questions and their concerns in our Q&A, and we kept track of that. We ended up with like 1,200 questions and comments. And everything that we collected was submitted to the Ohio House, which was putting together a task force to open up the state. It went to the Ohio State Dental Board, it went to ADHA, and it also went to our governor and the Department of Health. So it gave them an idea of how hygienists were feeling in the state of Ohio and the questions that needed answered. And we felt like they couldn't answer these questions, then maybe we shouldn't be opening. And Matt came on and told everybody about what ADHA and ODHA were doing for them, why being a member was important. So people like in the comments would be like, I totally understand what you do now. I understand why it's important to be a member. I'm going to join, or I'm going to renew my membership. And after that, we also sent out a survey. It went to all over 8,000 hygienists in Ohio, and it had questions similar to our poll questions on the webinar, but it also had open-ended questions where you could make suggestions, comments, things like that. And then at the last page of the survey where it says thank you, we had the $50 membership discount from ADHA with a link. So after you finish that, you could click on that link and it would take you right to join. But we had some great feedback, and last I checked, we had gained like 55 new members. So we were pretty excited about that.
Right. So what I liked also was that you really activated your Facebook page around this conversation, because I think you had at one point, I don't know, over 23 comments just on your Facebook page post.
Yes. Yes, and people were curious about it. We actually had it on our website, so if you missed the live broadcast, you could go look at it. The only thing is I don't think the poll questions popped up, but they got to hear all the pertinent information about what we're doing, what ADHA is doing, and why membership is important. And so I think they could put a name with a face and truly understand why membership is important.
Right. So what I love about this whole story, Shannon, is that, I mean, you didn't go out to do a membership campaign. This wasn't about this. It was about connecting with a challenge that dental hygienists were having. Now, not that we would ever wish to have these kinds of challenges where this is, but you were able to translate that into something that was actionable, and you were able to give it to a broader group so that you could actually turn that into a membership recruitment. So I don't want to put you on the spot. So please, you can say, Peggy, we're still figuring this out. But this was great. So kind of, I guess, two kinds of thoughts in the conversation around nailing the ask. So what thoughts do you guys have about what you're going to do to both continue this momentum, if you can, and secondly, to now reach out to those new members or any of the members and continue to demonstrate this value so that you get a strong renewal in this next year?
We actually have a membership chair, and we asked her to send a welcome email to all our new members. And then I reached out to all component presidents and asked them to send a welcome letter to the people in their components. That way they can, this is your leader. Hi, my name is, and hopefully they can introduce some information about, we're doing a Zoom meeting since we're meeting virtually right now, but just to give them an idea of there are ways to connect and to stay connected. We are still thinking of strategies. We have a lot of comments coming in since our governor opened dental back on May 1st. So we have some challenges ahead of us that we are working through. But it's been great to have a lot of non-members reaching out to us. I get hit up on Facebook all day long by non-members, and it's great. But at the same time, it's like, I don't always have the answer. And so we have a lot to work through right now. And I think most states do. When we did our webinar, I'd like to encourage you guys, we had all of District 5, we had all D5 presidents on with us. So that was Michigan, Kentucky, and Indiana, and they were actually panelists, and they could type in things to me in the chat. We disabled the chat for everybody except the panelists to keep it, controlled for us. and they were throwing things out. Don't forget to mention this. And so it was nice to have that camaraderie and that feedback and that partnership. It was really great. And we also had our D5 trustee on who gave an update of what ADHA, their COVID-19 and their task force. And we got to highlight the ADHA question and answer page, and we actually brought it up so people could see that your questions were being answered. So go check that page out. So it was drawing people to the ADHA page as well.
So that is excellent. I just want to say that I just want to call out a couple of things. So first of all, guys that are listening in on the webinar, you recognize that Shannon mentioned, each of their chapters or their components, their constituents groups, right? And how important that was to say, we got you local, we got you state, we got you national. So just that whole demonstrating that pyramid that Colorado has that on their website. But then you also mentioned drawing in from the adjoining areas, which further solidifies that this is we're part of this really broader, vibrant group. So again, it's the power of stronger together, right? So I just love that you made those points. And I also, if it's okay, I'd love to ask you this question because your Facebook page is a pretty robust page in terms of some things that are going on and just a lot of the information that's being shared and stuff like that. And I know we do worry. There was a very good question that we had from someone all about this idea of, and I know we're just about out of time, so I'm just going to ask you this real quick question. The person who asked about giving the information to everyone. So just real quickly to kind of sum it all up, Ohio has found that even though you give some away, that people are joining, they're seeing the value?
Yes, and our lobbyist actually helped with that because he basically told them this is what your dues are for. They help to advocate for your profession through legislation and so forth. So he just laid it all out for us. We give a lot of information to non-members. We advocate for non-members because it affects us all. But on our website, we also have things specifically on our members page for members. So
excellent.
Yeah, we give a lot of information out, but that's how you draw people in.
Absolutely. Well, thank you. Can you all give Shannon a big round of applause and reach out to her if you want to get more information on that? Super, super, super. Shannon, thank you so much for jumping in. I really appreciate this.
No problem.
You're getting a lot of yay Shannons, by the way, on your chapter. Awesome. on the chat. So, guys, I got to leave you with the question of the hour, which is what will you try? And I want you to throw that into the chat as we wrap up today's call. What will you try? Just one thing today. Maybe it's switching up to a different clarifying question. Maybe it's just changing the how are you question. Maybe it's changing the join page that you have. Maybe it's just saying, listen, I don't have to sell. I have to give to the community, and you follow Ohio's lead. What one thing are you going to do, and how are you going to make this conversation real? Thank you guys so much for being here with us today. I'm going to keep the chat open just for another second. Here's my information. Feel free to connect with me, but more importantly, connect with each other, connect with the incredible engagement team at the national office, and here's to supporting the profession. Thank you. Over to you guys.
Thanks, everyone.